Very witty.
I hope the parent didn't put them up. These loud parents.
What's on now? Stop laughing, it's your fault, not for your face.
Andy, is that better?
That's
Oh, yeah.
that's it, Andy. Yeah.
Much better.
Right, I'm just going to try my headphones again. Let me know if it's still working okay. Andy, is that better? That's not. How about that? Is that louder?
No, it's worse.
Yeah.
And low
that's
again.
worse.
But you can hear me now, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep it like that. That's fine. I blame the Swiss Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
No.
To make us jealous.
Yeah, they're not in the EU, we can say that. Starmer's still in post, is he?
We're keeping our eye open.
Yeah, well,
We'll check for you.
my mate's just gone on holiday for a week. I've had a bet with him that he won't be in post when he gets back.
No, he's meeting MPs at the minute.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just nonsense, isn't it? But
Okay, it's just gone 7, so I'll admit people now.
Are we waiting for any more candidates, Andy?
Yeah, Hannah's not here, but I've messaged her, but got no
Well,
reply.
I'm afraid it's been well advertised for everybody.
Yeah, I'll just admit people now.
You start admitting the people we've got.
Hannah's not there. Oh, she's there on Wednesday night.
Oh, she will be.
that's why he's coming.
Yeah. Searching.
Okay, I've admitted everyone in the waiting room now, John. So we've got people in, and we've got people a few people watching on YouTube. So away you go.
Are we all ready then? Right. Good evening, everybody. Everybody hear me okay? We've had a couple of audio issues. I think we're all sorted. So welcome to this Northeast Hustings. I'd like to thank Andy again, Andy Willens there, for doing all this preparation and learning how to live stream and all these different things. It's come together lovely. And so we've got a format which you can see in front of you. So I'm now performing the welcome message. You can see item 1 there. Again, just introduce myself. I've met some of you before online. John Clark. I'm the sort of proto chair, as it were, of the South Durham Newton Aycliffe branch. What we're going to do is go through 11 prepared questions as voted on by the members from the various members groups. And the candidates will have access to all these questions in advance. So everybody there got those questions? Anybody hasn't, please let us know now. I apologise if I keep looking to my right, but I've got a screen over there to my right, so my head keeps turning. We will ask the question and then we will ask each candidate to give their answer. And we'll have 1 minute to do so. And I'm going to try and be reasonably strict on the 1 minute. I won't be 100%, but we've got to try and keep time down for fairness. And each time we ask a question, we will change the order around, so it's random, so that everybody, somebody isn't going first all the time or last. Then, with the remaining time, we will ask any attendees if they have any questions using the raise hand function, and we will go through there in the order of the raised hands, first come, first served. The attendee will be called on to unmute themselves, ask the question, and please keep your questions brief as possible in order to get as many questions asked, and please keep it relevant to the hustings if we can. I know that debate and everything is very vital, but we do need to keep on track, and then we will allow each candidate approximately 90 seconds to respond. And we will ask questions until the allotted time is used, or if there's any time left, we will go back to the remainder of the questions that were in the original question bank. Is that okay for everybody? Nobody got any problem with that. So having said that, we will then go to question number 1. Oh, sorry, Andy's got another information sheet up there. The Zoom meeting reach capacity is live streamed on YouTube, and there's a link there, and we have got some people already on YouTube watching this. We're not expecting any disruptions, but anybody interjects or being called upon, we will mute people, and repeated disruptions could be met with removal from the Zoom meeting. And the attendee will be able to continue watching on the YouTube live stream. And this is for you candidates to answer questions, and obviously people are going to be voting on you, depending on your reactions and your views back. And the chat function is turned off for this Zoom meeting for the present time. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah. Okay. So we'll now go on to the next one, which will be, I believe, the first question. So question number 1, if you're elected to the CEC, what do you think the top 3 priorities should be? Your personal opinion, please. And the answer order, as you can see at the bottom there, first up, we've got Ian. So Ian, over to you.
I think the first and most essential function, most essential action is to constitute the branches properly. The next thing is really a question of bringing the party together. We've been through this bloodletting now, and it's obviously going to go on for another couple of weeks, but we need to get past that and have a completely unified party. And I think one of the best ways of doing that is my third kind of priority, which will be throwing ourselves into organisation. Now, that will be organisation both internally. We'll need to think about the next conference. We'll need to think about how we constitute not just the branches, but how we constitute whether there's going to be kind of regional assemblies and those kinds of things, which have happened up till now, and what their standing will be. But also throwing ourselves in nationally into campaigns, because I think we should be standing, for example, in the May elections, and we should organise for that. And that will be one way in which we can come together as a party, as a collective.
Thank you very much, Ian. And that was nicely within our minute as well. Thank you for that. Next up, we've got Kath. Over to you, Kath.
Thank you,
that
John.
question
Thank
there.
you.
Thank
you. If elected to the CEC, what would I? My first 3 priorities would be, I think I would like to go out and meet as many of the branches as we could and meet members. I think it's really good. I'm struggling on these Zoom things because I just like meeting people face to face, to be honest. But I think I would try and do that. Organising, getting the branches constituted. There's been some fantastic branches being set up, doing really good work in the community, and I think we should acknowledge that. But get them officially constituted. And also, as Ian said just there are elections coming up, and supporting the members who are going to be standing for election. I know in North Tyneside we've got Stuart standing, so it would be doing things like that and trying to get behind our candidates so we can get them elected for your party. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kath. And next on the list, we've got Alex. Over to you, Alex.
Thanks very much, John. If elected, my personal opinion for the top 3 priorities should be formalising our branches and regional structures so that we can all get together, start talking, start planning, community collaboration and organising, learning what good stuff we already do as members on the ground, what organisations we could link up with in order to support our communities. And my final personal opinion of what should be a priority is political education, and that's political education on the streets, explaining to the general public why they've got more in common with us than they do with the far right. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And next, after Alex, we've got Andy. Over to you. You're mute, Andy.
I beg your pardon. Sorry, is it possible to actually spotlight the speakers when they're speaking? Because I think we can't see people.
It does spotlight when you're speaking. It comes
Oh,
up in
okay.
green over your picture, yeah.
All right, okay, yeah, but I mean, anyway, never mind. So we need to set the branches up. I mean, everyone knows that, but that means actually issuing guidance, coherent guidance to the branches of how we need to do that. I also think we need to start mobilising members. This is something I think could have been done even before the CEC gets going. There's a lot of stuff going on politically, as we are well aware, demonstrations, all the rest of it. We should be mobilising those tens of thousands of your party supporters to do stuff. And then finally, at the same time, we need to be out there. We need to be seen. We need our leaders to be out there and seen, commenting on the issues of the day, because that's how we build the organisation.
Okay, thanks for that, Andy. And just in answer to your question, when you do speak, it does highlight in green on my screen. I can see there of the speaker.
Yeah, it's not just
Okay.
highlighting in green. You can actually spotlight the speaker yourself. You can,
Yeah.
and then everyone sees it in a big screen. But anyway,
Okay, yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Okay, I believe Hannah's joined us now. Hannah, over to you with question one. Are you okay with that? Is Hannah with us? No? Can anybody?
No,
see?
sorry, I just wouldn't. It
Yeah,
wouldn't take me
yeah,
off.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry,
over to
just
you,
wouldn't.
Hannah, for your
It
minute
wouldn't
on the
take me
first.
off mute there. Sorry. First of all, I'm really sorry for being late there. I've got 16% battery, so I hope it lasts for the entire call. I'll do my best. Can't find my
Okay.
charger anywhere. So, in regards to top three priorities, I think stability is incredibly important to build community trust. I think we need to show ourselves as very, stable and I don't want to say credible. I don't like that word, but a very stable option for people to vote for. We need to get our basic structures working properly and transparently so members can, like I said, trust us again. Second, I think embedding genuine internal democracy is incredibly important, which is why I fully support one member, one vote being absolutely crystallised. And third, growing the party in a sustainable way, especially in places like the Northeast, by supporting the branches, funding them, getting them up and running as soon as possible within all legal processes done. 1 second, Bodie, please. By supporting local branches, developing credible local campaigns, 1 minute, and ensuring our message speaks to people who feel ignored by the
Yeah.
main parties. And I feel
Okay.
like that's how the far
Yeah.
right have really got their claws in. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Yeah. You look like Slade's thing at the beginning. Now we come to Myra. Over to you, Myra.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would say the most important thing is ensuring transparency. So like having a complete roadmap of all of the acts that the CEC intends to implement within your party, so that the membership knows exactly what is happening at the top, as well as like publicizing minute reports and potential recordings of every single CEC meeting. The membership can't really know what's happening within your party if they don't have that intel to begin with. So I would say that's the starting point. Obviously, formalization of branches and providing them with data and funding is also a top priority. And bounce off of Alex's point, I also agree that political education is very important and that there should be a structure built into your party as a whole for everyone to be able to access whatever access educational materials in whatever format is best for them, whether that's through specialized fonts for those who have dyslexia or through I would say Braille, but yeah. So basically, like audio logs, Braille, video recordings, every single thing to make
We've got that. Yeah. Cheers, Myra. Thank you. We finally to Stuart on this one. Over to you, Stuart.
Right, thanks. Absolutely crucial is authorising the startup of the new branches with adequate resources and membership data. It's very important that the boundaries are based on what's suitable. So whether it's local government boundaries in Tees Valley and Tyne and Wear, or whether it's constituencies in Northumberland and Durham. In a sense, it's whatever is felt to be the most appropriate in the area by the members in that area, and we want the CEC to adopt them. I think we need to ensure that any paid staff appointed do not have any kind of loyalty to either of the two factions, but only to your party, its members, and our democracy. We've seen the role of full-time unelected people in the Labour Party. We also need to end the top-down, secretive and controlling culture imported into your party by staff that previously failed Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. That's all sorted for question 1. If we can move on to question 2 then, prepared question 2. What is your proposed plan to ensure branches are officially constituted as soon as possible? And I know some of you have already touched on this. And in this one, we go first back to Stuart. Over to you again, Stuart.
Right. Well, I'll have to repeat myself.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
We need agreement within our region, in all the different parts of our region, as to what we want in our own particular area, and it may well be different types of boundaries depending on our circumstances. I mean, Durham and Northumberland are such enormous geographical areas there can scarcely be boundaries just in the local government. So they may well choose to have parliamentary, whichever. But we also need to press our 2 elected CEC members to fight for those boundaries and report back within 2 weeks after the first CEC to all members in the region. We need to have an all members forum for CEC members to report back to.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. And then we go over to Ian now. To you, Ian. Is Ian back?
My apologies.
There we go.
First thing is to recognise the branches that already exist, including their officers, and then on the basis of that, we build for. Because at the moment we have the situation where it was a conference decision that we need 20% of people to be present in order to have a quorum. That's probably too high. What I would like to see is some kind of reasoning around that on the basis of the existing membership that we have. Once we've got a properly constituted branch, then we can have elections for the officers afresh, so that everybody knows that they've got a proper mandate. And of course, for this, what we need, crucially, is data and funding, the 2 things that we've been most conspicuously starved of up until now. And then, above all, communication to all the branch members and beyond.
Okay, thank you, Ian. And we now come back to Kath. Back to you, Kath.
Sorry, I can't get it on mute. That was it. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Kath, go on then.
I think it is, like it's been mentioned previously, it's like ensuring that all the branches that are existing, that there's an all member meeting, and that all the members are allowed to be part of that process. Again, it's like getting the membership data and sorting out the funding. Looking at the local branches and where they're going to sit in the areas, and ensuring that there's accessibility to all members. That's 1 member, 1 vote, and that they're an integral part of that decision making in the constitution of the branches. Also, where there's target the branches, particularly that are going to have people standing in as candidates in the local elections, because that's like going to be upon us very soon. And I think it's important that we identify them and get them constituted so they can quickly get to the elections. Really making sure that all members have. I mean, I'd think the 20% is okay. I think we need to have members being able to make decisions and not the threshold being too low. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kath. Yeah, thank you. And then back to Alex.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So until we actually see the data, all of this is just going to be speculation. But firstly, I would encourage the CEC to encourage contact from proto branch officers. We need to acknowledge the fantastic organising work that's been going on while the party's been in limbo, let's say. And also, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can learn from our proto branches what's gone well and what hasn't, and we can make changes based on that. I think that to ensure branches are officially constituted as soon as possible, we need to organise meetings centrally online, where either a proto branch officer or a CEC member chairs the meeting with a basic agenda that's purely and simply to ratify the branch and to get a team of officers in place and to go from that point. And then that opens it up for our branches to schedule other hybrid or in-person meetings moving forward from then.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And then back to Andy. Back to you, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need a plan, and I think that plan should be shared transparently with the members. Guidance should be issued on how to set up the branches. I would like to see the CEC appoint an org committee to prioritise and make it an absolute priority that we actually reach out to the existing proto branches that exist, and also that we get that information out. I do want to say something though about the quorum that's been put forward to set up a branch, because it's all right saying 20% is enough. 20% is way too high. I don't know any organisation that would have 20% quorum to set the branch up. There's only 30 people on this call, plus the people watching on YouTube, right? So actually 20%, we wouldn't even be quorum, by the way. Tonight we're covering loads of branches. So that needs to be looked at so that we actually give our branches the very best opportunity. Consult with our members. That's the way forward on that one, I think.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Right.
And then we're back to Hannah.
Yeah,
Hannah,
hi guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think first of all, it's really important that there's a clear, simple, time-limited process and structure for these branches to be recognised. And we know that delays damage morale, but of course there are, things that need to be done in the right order at the right time to make sure things are done transparently, fairly, and of course legally, which means we can't skip over any steps. So all of those things need doing in the most efficient way possible. CEC contacts, I believe, should be definitely responsible for helping the branches get over the line in this situation. I think it's really important that you have that direct line of communication between the branches and national. I do think a provisional recognition would be granted pretty quickly based on the branches as they exist now. And as Alex said there, I think it's a brilliant point that branches should be consulted on what has gone well, what hasn't, and how to move forward there, with some standardised guidelines, of course, across the board to make sure things are done, fairly and no one's getting any sort of advantages. And really empowering the members locally is just absolutely vital, just making sure they feel like they are being heard, being listened to. And just to clarify,
that's
I do
120.
Yeah, just to clarify, I don't think no one who is a current role holder should ever be allowed to ever again.
Okay, thank
Simply
you.
just looking for a way to level the playing field. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly on this one, Myra. Over to you, Myra.
Yeah, I think it's vital to work alongside the existing proto branches to in an attempt to facilitate launch meetings alongside members within the region. At these launch meetings, I would propose that an inaugural branch committee would be elected by those who have attended that meeting, and that committee would be able to receive the branch data on behalf of the entire branch, alongside being given support by the CEC to assist in creating of bank accounts and in order to transfer membership subs, and offer GDPR training to make handling data go as efficiently as possible.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Myra. And that's we're going now to question 3. So voters don't want to see discord in your party. What would you personally do to help solve any disagreements? And firstly, we come back to Myra on that one. So back to you, Myra.
Yeah. The easiest way to help with disagreements is just allowing for comradely debate to be able to take place in a formal setting. So long as we are able to discuss alongside each other, then disagreements will naturally end up being handled amongst themselves. And I don't think disagreements will be able to be avoided entirely. Everyone is going to have their own opinion on everything, and that can't, like, I think stopping that is going to remove democracy from the party entirely. But so long as we are able to handle those disagreements fairly, I don't believe it will cause a disruption within the party.
Okay, thank you, Myra. And now we come back to Stuart.
Right. Well, I would judge issues on their merits, regardless of the two factions that exist. And I would also use my mediation and negotiating skills and experience built up over a lifetime of dealing with conflict. I've been a representative in NUPE, Unison, GMB, Community Union, and you've got to recognise that quite often there are internal conflicts amongst workers and different groups of workers, and there's inter-union conflicts as well, sometimes quite bitter. So I've had to deal with all of them and resolve all of them to the best of my ability. I've also, as an elected councillor, have to deal with conflicts within the community as to people wanting the off license, not wanting the off license, and neighbours not getting on with one another. There are all of these kind of differences which you've got to overcome to find ways to move forward in unity. And I personally would want to assist in that.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. And then we come to Ian. From the
point of view of personal skills, I've been a mental health nurse for over 40 years. So quite a lot of experience with dealing with disagreements between people and individuals, if those are personal disagreements. But I think quite often what we're talking about is political disagreements. And I think the important thing is to have that debate and have it openly. And have it openly, but more than that, once we have a decision, once we decide on something democratically, then we stick to it with some sort of measure of party discipline. I don't mean that as a kind of external threat or as any kind of binding thing. People will always have their own views, and dissent is actually something to be welcomed. But nevertheless, I think it's important that once we reach a decision, we work together as your party, one party.
Thank you for that, Ian. And we come to Kath.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Well, when the Labour Party was created, it was created on an uncomfortable coalition with the Fabians, the Socialists, unions, and I think that's just part of the process. I think that the more we actually have more in common with each other. There's from the cost of living to Palestine. I think, as like others have said, some democratic debate. But I think on some of the big issues, we've seen thousands on the Palestine marches. We've seen people on for the cost of living for all these different issues, and it just shows that we can work together. And I do, as Ian has said before, it is good to have some healthy debate, and it's better to have so you're actually examining where you're coming from and what you're doing, and so you have other people's points of view. But I'm sure we can come to some shared solutions on a lot of the issues.
Okay, thanks, Kath. And then we come back to Alex.
So on this, I'm a firm believer in the power of communication. So in the first instance of any disagreement, I would talk to members, hear out the arguments and facilitate a meaningful discussion about the differences. If mediation and discussion are unsuccessful, I would always push for a democratic vote where applicable. so that the membership's heard and to ensure that their vote would be respected. But I do want to pick up on a couple of them points, that it is important for us to debate. And I think more importantly than anything, it's important for us to deconstruct our own perspectives and where we lie. There'll be places where we disagree on, but whether we disagree on because we've not had good information or we disagree because we've got personal lived experience, we need to all be able to have these conversations and to educate each other and to grow as a collective.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And then we're back to Andy.
Yeah, I think the CEC needs people on it who are alive to different views. And I think we need to be aware of what members will think. I don't think we can be hidebound by any kind of adherence to slates, factions, or anything like that. I just think that's counterproductive. I also think that on contentious issues, we can't have a situation where less than half of the party or only half the party supports a particular position. And we need to really communicate with each other at CEC level and also the membership in order to endeavour to actually come to a meaningful conclusion. And we also should stop using terms like bloodletting when we're talking about the debate that's taking place in the party, because I really don't think that's appropriate in this organisation.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And finally on this one, over to Hannah.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I mean, as everyone said, I think disagreements are inevitable, really. No one's ever going to agree on everything all at once, and that's just the reality of human nature. I think what's really important is, first and foremost, is listening to each other, not just trying to shout over each other, because that ultimately does not get us anywhere. And really, like, Alex made a brilliant point there, deconstructing our own views, being willing to look internally and think, was I wrong here? Maybe I was misled somewhere. Maybe it's worth looking at another point of view. And I mean, ultimately, in a broader sense, just even outside of the members, I think working with people we don't agree with and holding space for them to have different beliefs is so important if we want to grow the party outside of the kind of bubble of members we've got right now, who are brilliant, incredible members, but we do need to grow the party. So we have to hold space for people who have different opinions, as long as their ultimate goal is the same: unity, equality, fairness, and a better quality of life for all of us. Because, like all of us have said, where we do agree is the cost of living, is the lack of childcare, and all these other daily working class struggles.
Right, thanks, Hannah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we come to prepared question 4. And that is, if you get elected and are on a slate, how will you cooperate with the opposite slate with differing views? Now, on this one, if any of you aren't on a slate, you can make your point if you wish, but if you don't want to answer, I don't think it's maybe relevant to this question. I don't know if you agree. But we'll go through the order anyway. So that one starts with Hannah again.
Yeah. So obviously I am on the team, the Many, who I am incredibly proud to be a part of. They're all wonderful people, and I'm honoured to be alongside them. But just as equally, I think a lot of the independents even, can attest, I have supported other people. I have supported independents. I have been there because I truly just want the best for the region. It is not about a title for me. The CEC is collective leadership. It's not supposed to be a battleground, and I don't want that. Ultimately, after this election, the reason I've tried to be kind and I've tried to keep my morals right on the high ground is because we have to work with each other after this. It doesn't matter what happens in this election. I want a brilliant group of CEC members, and truly there are people who are independents who I would be more than happy to stand aside for and think this region's in good hands with you guys. It is not about that for me. It's about wanting the best for the region, the country, the members, and the people up and down the nation who have been failed over and over again. And here's Juju to put her unmentionables in the camera again. Sorry, guys.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so on this one now we've got Myra. Do you wish to say anything on this one, Myra?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm personally all for cooperating with the many in any way possible, though I also believe that collaboration is a two-way stream and that all parties involved need to be willing to communicate and collaborate with each other in order for it to lead anywhere. I can't predict the outcome of how that would go because I'm not a psychic, but from what I've seen of everyone within the Northeast specifically, I think everyone has had a really great relationship with each other. So I don't feel as though it would be fighting against anything on that front since we've already started working together on some local events. Um, how I would approach disagreements, it's probably best to just go to the membership because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are like running this party. We are just representatives for them as CEC candidates. And if we are disagreeing, then I'd say it's up to the membership to say their part and give their views and stances, whether it's through their branches or through just individual messaging towards us, since we are going to be in close
Okay,
contact with them
thank
anyway.
you, Myra. Yeah, thank you. And then we come to Stuart. Any points on this question, Stuart?
Yes, I do. Instead of having to deal with one opposite slate, I've got to deal with two opposite slates. But there's no choice but to cooperate with everyone who's been democratically elected. And I hope that there will be some independents around the United Kingdom who have managed to break through the two factional monopolies that operate. I would use my judgment on what I felt was in the best interest of the Northeast region and your party itself nationally. Using rational arguments and not political loyalties is the only way forward that offers your party a future of growth and effectiveness, and I will be committed to that.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. And then we come to Ian.
Yeah, there's a point to being on a slate. It isn't just to kind of pool your resources, although as a socialist and as somebody who's worked together within trade unions or political organizations all my life, there is a point to working together in solidarity. Otherwise, why would we do it? There is a point to being on a slate because more than just a 300-word blurb or a Hustings meeting or whatever, you can look at our program, you can look at what we stand for. What we don't want, for example, is a Labour Party 2.0. And the reason why we don't want it is because it singularly failed to represent the interests of the working class. And the reason why it failed to represent the interests of the working class is it was constantly trying to square the circle. On the one hand, claiming to be socialist, and on the other hand, trying to make capitalism work better. Having said that, again, I come back to the question of party discipline. We have an open debate, and if I lose that vote, if I lose that argument, I don't walk out the party. I don't set up another group. I don't do some. I abide by that decision. I am a Democrat.
Okay, thank you, Ian. And now we come to Kath. Was there, Kath? Are you there, Kath?
He's just trying to
Okay.
unmute, John.
Yeah, she was having difficulty before.
Right, thank you.
Are
I
you
don't
there,
know.
Kath? Thank you.
Yeah, I was keep pressing unmute, but it didn't work. Again, I just think that I mean I'm part of the many as well. I'm very proud to be in when with Hannah. But I mean the thing is, we've developed these fractions because others have gone into fractions, and I just think if we keep talking about it, all it does is cause further division. There's some fantastic candidates here, like, and any one of us are going to be great on the CEC. I just think that the nobody's bigger than the party, and we just need to work together. We're gonna, the membership have voted for a collective leadership, and that's what we're going to have to fulfill that. We just need to unite and to make people to work together. And I think, talking about I mean, slates and things like that. I mean, yeah, I've been, well, I suppose I've slates in the union and stuff like that. I mean, it is about working together there. But at the end of the day, when we're actually in the CEC, we're going to all have to work together because it's about the
Yeah,
membership. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, Kath. And then we come to Alex. Any points on that, Alex?
Yeah, I'll just say a very quick. So as an independent candidate, obviously this doesn't apply to me personally, but like it has been said, by everybody else, regardless of who gets elected, whether that's a full slate, a partial slate, two opposing slates, or independents mixed in there, we are going to have to all work together. So regardless of what's transpired in the election period, we need to have a proper sit down, clear the air, and make sure that everybody is just working towards what's going to be best for the members moving forward.
Thank you very much, Alex. And lastly, on this one, we come to Andy.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree that we've got to work together. I have to say, being honest, I don't think that the signs have been pretty great about that from the two slates' point of view. There's a lot of abuse flying around on social media and elsewhere. And I think the best way to get over that is to make sure that we get some independents elected onto the CEC. Because if we don't, frankly, from what I've seen so far, and even what I've heard during the course of this discussion, where some people can't seem to even mention the other slate by name, and yet they say that they will work with them closely. Actually, I'm not enthusiastic. So the best way to make sure that we all work together is to make sure that there's a healthy number of independents on the CEC after this election.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andy. Can I just make a point here, guys? That's only 4 questions out of 11 completed, and we're already 40 minutes in. So could you please try and stick back to that minute, please? Some people are wandering over, and try and stick to the question that's been asked and not try to diverge too much into your own views on other things. If we stick to the questions as closely as possible, please. So, question number 5, will you commit to continue the composition to ensure motions are decided by one member, one vote, open to all members? And we open this one with Andy.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know whether you cut me off there. Yes, absolutely. That's what the members want, and that's what the members need to have. That's 15 seconds. That should save us.
That's it is a straightforward yes or no question, I think, this one in effect. We then come to Hannah.
Yeah, I think similar to Andy. I mean, I've been pretty clear about my intentions. One member, one vote is the most democratic choice, in my opinion. It's the thing that makes sure disabled people, elderly people, low-income families, people in rural areas, etc. Yeah,
Yeah,
keeps it fair across the board.
yeah, yes or no. And Myra.
Yes, conference decision is fine, and the CEC do not have the power to overturn conference decision in any capacity. This includes one member, one vote.
Thank you. And Stuart.
One member, one vote for every member is a key aspect that distinguishes us, your party, from all other parties. We do decision making differently and more democratically. It's also more in keeping with today's digital age. We need to keep it. If it was good enough for our founding conference at Liverpool, it is good enough for future conferences. It also gives members a sense that the party belongs to them and not any elected elite.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stuart. And then Ian.
Yes, absolutely. No one wants to return to, for example, block votes or any of that kind of nonsense of the past. It is an overwhelming conference decision, and we absolutely must respect that. It is also a way to ensure maximum member participation, and that, above all else, is the most important thing.
Yes, thank you, Ian. And then Kath.
Yes. It was voted by 77% of the conference. Yes, we should, then the members are sovereign. One member, one vote.
Right, straightforward. Thank you, Kath. And finally, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it's important that all of our votes are equitable.
Yeah, right. Thank you, everybody, for that one. Make that one nice and straightforward. Now we come to question 6. Have you any experience developing setting up a member-led organisation, and what did you learn from it? Again, let's try and keep this one as concise as possible, please. And we start this one with Alex.
Thanks, John. So I haven't started from scratch a member-led organisation, but I have joined member-led community interest companies from their early stages and have helped them to grow over the years. The most important thing that I've learned is how to actively listen in order to develop and deliver programs that our beneficiaries have wanted and needed. And also that it's a process and it takes time to get things right, but it's worth doing properly as long as we remain transparent and accountable every step of the way.
Thank you very much. And then we come to Andy.
The answer to that is yes, both professionally and politically, whether that be in the Labour Party, when I was head of campaigns for Keep Britain Tidy, and we got the bag charge implemented, we had to liaise with a lot of people on the ground. Also, I was involved in a health campaign in the northwest of England when I lived there. And again, we had members on the ground. What I learned from all of that is that it's always harder than you think it is. And you do need to listen to the members, and communication is absolutely critical at all times. And I think that's something that we really need to be aware of in terms of how we reach out to our members in every part of the country. Communication is absolutely vital, and listening to the members on the ground.
Thank you very much, Andy. And now we come back to Hannah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure there would technically be member-led organisations, but I have started and run a few independent charities and community projects which were voluntary run, but what I found was if you give people the tools and the means and the framework to help and support something like that, they will do it. People want to help and often just don't actually know how. One of my biggest goals is always to make charity accessible to people, give them that framework, give them the means to do it. And it is incredible what you see come out of people when you just hand them the right tools to do so. People want to help more than we think. We just have to help them help. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. And then we come to Myra.
What experience I've helped in organizing Your Party Tyneside, which isn't an organization, but it is member-led. What I learned from it is that any and all skill sets are useful. Even if you feel as though your skill sets aren't going to be helpful, you should still be quick to put yourself forward, as you never know what they can be used for. I thought that my skills in like tech and graphics wouldn't end up coming in handy, but I still offer them anyways, and it made running hybrid meetings a lot easier within Your Party Tyneside. So I would say just putting yourself forward is always going to be a good option, and you should have more confidence in your own abilities.
Okay, thanks, Myra. And then we come to Stuart.
As Vice President of NUPE, I was on the negotiating committee alongside reps from NALGO and COSI to create Unison. My signature is on the founding articles. I learnt that constitutional safeguards did not of themselves offer much protection to the abuses of power by both political factions and unelected officials. The role of manual workers and part-time workers and others was completely marginalised within Unison in a very destructive kind of way. What was missing was a culture of respecting and valuing differences in moving forward together. We will all have to fight for this culture to become dominant in the period ahead. Unison has only just shaken off the shackles of since 1993 and now offers an opportunity to become a proper fighting union. It just shows you how badly things can go wrong at the beginning of an organisation.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. We now come to Ian.
As a postgraduate student at the University of Glasgow. I didn't just stay in the Students' Union, I joined the Association of University Teachers because I was a part-time tutor in the sociology department. Um, it was quite clear that we were badly paid compared to tutors in other places. It was quite clear that there were wildly varying rates of pay across the campus. I contacted every single postgraduate and tried to recruit them into the Association of University Teachers. One of the consequences of that was the direct contact with every single postgraduate meant that I knew exactly what everybody was earning effectively. I could go straight to Senate and say there is clear inequity here. We can change this. Moreover, we recruited actively into the AUT, and beyond that, we got all future pay rises tied to AUT pay rises. And not only that, we won a 30% pay rise for all tutors and demonstrators. The overwhelming majority of that sort of work was done by postgraduate students.
Okay, thank you, Ian. And then on this one, finally we come to Kath. Hopefully we've got the mute sorted for her. Yeah, you got it, Kath. You worked it
I
out
did it
now.
this time, yeah, John.
If at first you don't succeed.
That's right.
Okay, where you go.
Well, yeah, well, after was a councillor, we set up the North Tyneside Community Independence with Stuart as well, and it was such a process. You found out just exactly all the intricacies that was you had to have as a constitution, the different roles and things like that. It was a lot more than I ever thought that you had to do, setting up an organization and getting people, maintaining people's interest and keeping people going, that, we could get it through this, especially trying to get registered with the Electoral Commission. And it's the same as, and I've also been involved in a local creatives organization. And again, it's the community interest, and we're going to try and become a kick as well. But initially, there was lots of interest, and then just all the processes that it involves trying to keep people interested, and it's all this work that you have to do, that the sort of, like, I would call it like the drudgery, the dry work, not the campaigning or the interesting stuff, but it's all the stuff you have to put in place and all the structures. But in the end, it does bear fruit, and it's been worth it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks for Kath. You just want to hold the line because you're first for the next one.
Yes, I'll not go
Yeah.
on mute.
Yeah. So, question 7, we come to, what are your thoughts now the CEC and other your party structures could be made to function more effectively and in the interest of its members? And we start this one with Kath.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously the CEC, it's a collective. I think it's really exciting because there's no other party that's got like a structure that's going to be, like a collective that we have. I think, trying to engage, like, make it more effective for the members is things like, like getting what Jeremy's put for, like, commissions, where you've got like a disabled commission, so you've got the disabled making policy for the disabled, renters and renters, leaseholders, and council tenants making like housing policies, as well as like educators and parents making, like, for National Education Service, things like that, where it's really going to get members involved in what really is going to affect them.
Okay, thank you for that, Kath. Yeah. Okay, and then we come to Alex.
So it's quite similar to Kath. But I would be, if elected, and just in general, I would be really interested to hear feedback from members on what they think would be best. But personally, I would take inspiration from the structures used by my union, the National Education Union, and the Trades Union Congress, including representative seat holders, chairing working committees. The committees would be responsible for coming up with the ideas of policy and where we move on to. That would be including obviously the different equality strands, so our global majority members, our LGBT plus members, our disabled members, our women members, and yeah, so I would be personally very interested to hear what structures members would want implemented, but those are structures that I am already aware of, that I would be comfortable to push forward.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And then we come to Andy. Back
Yeah,
to you.
I think we need to set up effective and efficient feedback loops so that communication goes two ways between the various structures and the members. Regular reports should be submitted and presented to our members, and clear outputs as well. We need to be absolutely right down the line on the sort of stuff that we're actually doing as well. And like Alex, I think, we have to listen to our members. This is, if you like, some of the dull and boring stuff of membership organisations, but it's absolutely vital, because if we don't do it, then basically members are going to be dissatisfied and the organisation is going to fail. So really, we need to be getting down into the weeds with this stuff and making it happen.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And then we come back to Hannah.
Yeah, hi. So I do think the focus should always be on strategy, governance and support, not so much micromanagement. The branches are perfectly capable of knowing their communities better than anyone else can. Meetings do need clear agendas, published minutes and tracked decisions, and that transparency should definitely go both ways, so to enable them as much support as possible. The more power should sit with the members and the branches, for reasons I've already said, with the CEC acting to enable them to be the best version of themselves as opposed to controlling the decisions being made. And just transparency, predictability and good, clear communication is absolutely vital, because I think that would dramatically improve effectiveness from both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. And then we come to Myra. Over to you.
Yeah, for CEC structure specifically, I would want to see better non-binary representation. Andy Wellens has made a really good idea of it is that he's been treading around of making it be one candidates must be different genders rather than at least one woman. I'm all for stealing that idea and making it officialized. As for the structures outside the CEC, I would be I feel as though we need more transparency and we need to be empowering membership more, as it is their party at the end of the day. It's not the leadership's party. So making sure the members have maximum amount of control over it is vital. Large structural changes, I believe, should be only done through conference, as that's the membership needs to vote on those. And I believe we should get feedback from memberships and branches on the structures so that they can be voted effectively during conference.
Okay, thanks, Myra. And then we come to Stuart.
Yeah, well, I think that if collective leadership is to mean anything, every member of the CEC should have their own specific responsibility, whether it's SEND, immigrant rights, trans rights, whichever the area is. Every member of the CEC should have a particular responsibility. I don't want to see a committee that just meets and rubber stamps papers previously prepared by paid members of staff, because that's the way that most unions and the Labour Party normally work. I think we should establish regional committees based on our active branches. The need is urgent to facilitate and support new branches, as well as coordinating between the established branches. Your party input into the Miners' Gala this year, we need to get our act together now before we even have official branches, let alone the 2027 elections, when there needs to be an enormous expansion in the seats we contest.
Yeah, thank you. And then we finally come on this question to Ian.
Well, your party is unique in having a collective leadership, and that collective leadership was something that was won at conference. And it was won at conference against the opposition by some in the leadership of your party. And that's an important thing to remember. We are delegates, effectively. We are delegates from the membership. And it's the duty really of us to get around all the branches and talk to members, and above all, listen to members. So that's a vital part, and it's vital that we're not just a recreation of the executive committee of the Labour Party, for example, which really didn't have the authority that it should have had. We want regular reports. We want and a complete openness and transparency about the decisions that are being made, not just decisions made by the party and then informing the members, but the members having a transmission belt by which they can influence the decisions that we make.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, so we come to question number 8. How will you ensure accessibility and inclusivity for disabled people in your party? I know some of you touched on that in the last point, so we'll ask for your views on this one. And we start with Ian this time.
Well, as I say, after nearly 50 years experience as a nurse, the whole idea around accessibility and inclusivity is very important to me. I'm an offender myself in terms of using jargon, in terms of using language which may not be completely plain. I think we need to have an emphasis on plain speaking language for all members, bearing in mind that people may have disabilities of one sort or another. Beyond that, I think there needs to be proper, reasonable adjustments and an account taken of the huge diversity of our membership. And of course, we can use technology to that end as well. And that means a variety of different kinds of meetings. I mean, for example, we pretty much take for granted that online meetings are good in terms of people not having to travel, but sometimes they're awkward, aren't they, for people who are not particularly tech savvy. So we may need to kind of change that in parts and actually have in-person meetings in different locations.
Thank you, Ian. And then we come to Kath.
Thanks, John. I think Ian said already about accessibility for disabled people, and having the one member, one vote, I think is really important for that, so that that they get a say as well. That we have like quarters where there is sort of like positive I'm trying to say positivity for disabled people. So there's a certain quota, so that we ensure that there's a certain quota of disabled people have access to the different groups, especially like, as I mentioned before, like a disability commission that actually makes policies for the disabled, because they're the people who have got that lived experience. And just making sure they've got the access, like Ian said before, the technology, so that there's full access to the voting and policy creation and voting rights. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Kath. And then we come to Alex.
So I don't know obviously who submitted this question, but whoever it was, I do want to thank them. As a disabled person, it's accessibility and inclusivity in any organisation is incredibly important to me. And I think it's important that we break down what those two definitions are. Accessibility is about removing the barriers to participation for our disabled members. Inclusivity is about valuing their input and ensuring that their voices are centralised. In terms of accessibility, we should be ensuring that every in-person member meeting is accessible, whether that's step-free access, a hearing loop, whether we've got paper documents in Braille or on different coloured paper, different fonts for those that may need that. And also, sorry, I've just lost my place. An OWL system. The OWL system is great for hybrid meetings, ensuring that hybrid is going to be available for everybody as well. And also, most importantly, we need to reach out to our disabled members and we need to find out what barriers that they face. And moving forward from that, we tackle those barriers. And just to try and really quickly tag it on the end, I'm a firm believer in the social model of disability, and I believe that's something that your party needs to adapt as well.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And then we come to Andy.
Yeah, I think we need to ask our members what they want and what they need, and not make announcements about setting up various groups before we've even done that. I think it's really important to consult In the past, I haven't been a massive fan of hybrid meetings, but I think you have to embrace them in relation to ensuring that we're fully accessible. It goes without saying, although it doesn't always happen, that room bookings for meetings are accessible, and we do have hearing loops if if at all possible. And I also think when we're talking about inclusivity, I think we need to stress the importance of the role of the chair in managing meetings. And maybe we need to look at training for chairs, equal opportunities training for chairs and secretaries, because we will have people coming into the organisation for whom some of these roles are, not things they've done before. So we shouldn't assume anything, and we should give people the maximum amount of support that they need in order that we can give the best service to our members.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And then we come to Hannah.
Yes, perfectly timed question actually. As you'll notice, I've changed position because being sat down on my perching stool was getting uncomfortable, which is absolutely why these meetings are completely vital to be hybrid, because I simply just would not have these options. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for these options. And it stretches further than just the members. I mean, I've got a disabled son as well, who his disability affects my life, it impacts my day-to-day life, and that also has to be taken into consideration for the millions of SEND parents who I'm sure would love to participate in writing policy about their children. And the members policy commission is such a brilliant idea for that reason, because who can write policy better than people who have lived these struggles day in and day out? It absolutely must start with the disabled people, and it has to be from the beginning, not an afterthought. We are not an afterthought. We should never be treated as such. It must be there from the get-go, not some, oh yeah, we should add that in. We are not an afterthought. We are just as important and vital as every other member in this party. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. And then we come to Myra.
Yeah, I think making hybrid meetings hybrid meetings are a must, and that obviously wheelchair accessibility is very important for in-person meetings. Hybrid meetings allow for everyone to be able to access it, or at least most people to be able to access it in some capacity. In-person meetings should also have stuff like stage mics to ensure that people who are hard of hearing are able to pick up on everything that's being said. I also believe that tools should be distributed from the CEC to from the members of the CEC to allow for the members to be able to, say, read documents easier, such as screen readers or alternate fonts for documents. And I also think that the most important thing is being able to listen to the voices of disabled members of the community directly. And yeah, it's gotten me far just being able to listen to those who are disabled and listening to their feedback and acting on it. I think that is the most vital part in any of this.
Okay, thank you, Myra. And finally on this one, Stuart.
I'm both a member of Unite's disabled sector and also of DPAC. A key issue for us is the effective development of our disabled members section or sector. And this is where DPAC's slogan, "Nothing about us without us," needs to be put into practice as soon as possible. The key is listening to the very varied needs of the people with different kinds of disability. Maximum use of the available technology is, of course, vital. It's strange, but I think it also helps everyone in terms of inclusivity, whether disabled or not, that we take into account people's needs.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And now we come to question 9, a little bit of a change of tack on this one. We've got the question there, Andy. Yeah, thank you. Do you support dual membership? Which should be, I suppose, a straight yes or no. And if so, how will you decide on which other parties to allow dual membership with? And we begin this one with Stuart.
Right. Well, some parties already have rules against either dual membership or factions, such as the Green Party and the Socialist Workers' Party. The smaller sectarian socialist parties have been fighting each other for 50 years and more before your party ever existed. I do not want to see them continuing their fight as to which one of them has the holy writ and the right to be the leader of the working class within your party. Each of them do see themselves as having the true message and leadership role. And I always think about the life of Brian. Individuals, whichever organisation they're in, have been in rather, are more than welcome, as far as I'm concerned, to join your party and to be loyal to your party. But there needs to be a very, very high bar indeed to allow an organisation in which in actual fact has a very different agenda to that which your party has, not only with our policies, but our values and our way of actually approaching issues.
Thank you, Stuart. Yeah. Then we come to Ian.
I'm completely in favour of dual membership where it's appropriate. And I say where it's appropriate because, for example, it clearly can't work where it's dual membership with another party which does not either share our values or will stand against us in elections. So, for example, we could not easily have dual membership with the Greens because the Greens will want to stand in every single election. There's no indication whatsoever that the Greens will be prepared to stand aside. The Greens are not our friends. They are not a socialist party. They are a pro-capitalist, pro-NATO party. As regards to small Marxist groups, having been in them over the years, one of the things I find important about them is that they give a political education and a political understanding, which often was completely absent from the Labour Party. I believe that in order to have the proper debates that we need to formulate policy, and I believe it should be a democratic decision to formulate policy, then there has to be that open debate. If a group is acting against the interests of your party, then they should be excluded, but only if they're doing that. Otherwise, if they're a socialist party, at the moment, what we have is small businessmen are perfectly welcome in your party, but socialists are being excluded.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ian. And then we come to Kath.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I mean, and I know that obviously we've got to rocky start, and the first instance was, the post people and exclusions, which wasn't good. But I agree with Stuart. Dual membership, I think, if there is a local party embedded in the community or regional, I think yes. But if they're a national party which have got that they're not the same, they're not really the same interests, but then they're speaking from the same hymn book as us. I think that we can't have dual membership. And my concern is as well, when you get some of these groups in, they take over the local branches, and what it does is it puts off people coming along. And I think if we're going to really appeal to the masses, we need to have branches where they're welcoming to all, and that we value everybody's opinions. And I have seen this before when they've taken over, and it becomes another branch of that particular party rather than it being your party.
Okay, thank you, Kath. And then we come to Alex.
So the inaugural conference did vote to support dual membership. So as a member and as a candidate for CEC, I do support that because that's the will of our conference. For me, the most important part of deciding whether a party is aligned with ours or not is to compare their track record with our political statement. If they've proven to follow the principles that we've enshrined, then I would be comfortable with them being a dual member of the party.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Alex. And then we come to Andy.
Yeah, I support dual membership where there is a strategic benefit for your party to be aligned with these other organisations. I'm opposed to any witch hunts. We've had enough of that in the past. But any organisations that are allied to your party, these must be safe spaces for our members. Our members need to feel safe in those organisations. I don't think we should start prescribing organisations at the minute. I was interested and quite surprised to hear Ian basically dismiss the Greens. especially given Zara Sultana's recent statement where she gave critical support to the Greens, actually. And anyone with any, sort of political nous, I think, would say that we would support the Greens in the Gorton and Denton by-election. So I think we need to have conversations with organisations about what's in the best interest strategically of our organisations, of our organisation going forward. For me, that would be a sensible approach.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And finally on this one,
What?
we've got Myra.
Oh, wait. Is it? I thought Hannah was next.
Oh, sorry, my apologies, Hannah. My apologies.
Thank you, Myra.
I'm jumping ahead. So thank you for that, Myra.
Yeah, I mean, simply put, as a CEC candidate, I would work to uphold what the members have voted for. I do think it's a very important discussion that needs to be had about which groups ultimately are allowed in. Really, they have to align with us. If there's a reason that they want the other group as well, they're not the same they're not the same, they don't align, and that's okay. Things can exist separate of each other and still be good things. They just maybe don't work perfectly together. It's not a slight or an insult to say maybe you guys wouldn't be the right fit for your party, but it is okay to say that. And I think we need to accept that that is going to be a difficult discussion that we need to have. But ultimately, as it was mentioned, if they don't bring benefits to the party, if they're not going to be good for us, then what would ultimately be the point? The members are trusting us to make those decisions, and I think we have to take them very seriously.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. And then now finally, Myra, thank you.
Yes, I'd support dual membership. I believe that every socialist organization should be able to work alongside your party, as your party is in itself a socialist organization. These organizations have been working within the community for decades now, and I believe that they know their local communities best, and that they would be the greatest representation of the Northeast in our case, and we should thrive. We can thrive if we work alongside those existing communities and end the divide entirely.
Thank you, Myra. We now come to question number 10. In your opinion, what would be the most effective and fair way for your party to decide on and write policy? For example, proposed and written by the CEC, by branches, by individual members, or by sortition assembly, for example. And we start this one with Myra.
Yeah, I would say an open submission system where members can submit policies either as a branch or as an individual would be the best approach. These policies would put a basic spam filter to avoid clutter and to merge policies that are similar to each other, and then have policies be upvoted or downvoted by the membership ahead of conference. I would have all policies submitted be accessible to the membership through either the website or the app, and have it so that they can be so that members can suggest edits to the policies ahead of conference, and those policies would be again voted on membership to refine the submissions to be prepared for conference. I would then take the submissions that have the highest votage, and then they would directly go to conference to be voted on by the membership.
Thank you, Myra. And now we come to Stuart.
I differ from Myra on that because I think the reality is if you give every individual member the right to put forward policy motions, you're just going to swamp any kind of process. It was always traditionally what local government officers did with committees they didn't like. They swamped them with paper all over the place, so they couldn't do anything. I want to see branch motions to national conference voted on by all members, the same as Myra in that respect. The CEC is primarily to campaign for and implement policies decided upon by our membership. Urgent issues, fair enough, that come up unexpectedly, they can properly deal with. But other than that, it's branches and members should have all of the say.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And then we come to Ian.
I'm completely in favour of a sovereign conference. with delegates being elected by branches. Otherwise, what's the point of branches in a sense? If you go for sortition, one of the things you're saying is that we don't trust the members to elect their own delegates. And I think while I'm wholly opposed to sortition, sortition is good for things like jury service or things where there isn't a kind of contentious political issue there. But I think branches should be electing their delegates to go to conference, where they should be able to debate things properly. You've got to go through a process of accepting amendments and possibly needing to composite those, and that is best done, I think, by a sovereign elected delegate conference. And of course, then it can be ratified and voted on with one member, one vote. But the crucial thing is, I think, that sortition is a wholly undemocratic form of selection for conference.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Then we come to Kath.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I think policy should be decided on branches, who then goes up to conference for to be voted upon, just like we do in the unions. And obviously, if anything is the CEC are responsible for seeing if that policies is accepted, then they see that through. And obviously, if there is an urgent view or policy, that obviously that have to look at that on a case by case basis. The CEC will probably be involved in that, but basically it would be the branches that would decide and write policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kath. And then we come to Alex.
A very similar answer. So I would take my inspiration from union structures, where it would be that branches would formulate motions, they would get them endorsed by other branches across the country, and then through a prioritization, those make it to the conference for everybody to be able to vote one member, one vote. But this isn't the only way. I would be more than open to learn in different ways from members that they'd like to see. But I would also want to ensure that there's a mechanism in place for individual members to bring forward motions at any point outside of the annual conference time. So those would be, obviously the numbers would have to be figured out, but endorsed by a certain number of members or branches and then brought to the CEC to then be put forward and put into action.
Thank you very much, Alex. And then we come to Andy.
Yeah, I think on this one, I think conference is key for the decisions that we make. So are the branches, and we need to make sure many of the other questions we discussed earlier about making sure that people have adequate involvement in the branches, but also on a CEC that's actually elected on a regional basis. I actually think our CEC members have got a role to play here, not independently on their own, because obviously they represent our members in the region. But I do think, and I would hope, that the leadership of your party would actually listen to regions and the regional voice, because as we know, when we start talking about the northeast of England, we're often ignored far too often by a lot of the decision-making process in politics and elsewhere in this country. So I think we need to be very clear that the CEC members that are elected do stand up for our region as well, obviously duly verifying stuff with the membership, but the region's got a role to play as well, in my opinion.
Okay, thanks, Andy. And finally on this one, Hannah.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's made really brilliant points there. I do think a sort of mixed model would be the best approach, similar to what a few people have mentioned. Policy ideas, coming from members and branches. But I do think why would we ignore the experience some people do have in policy writing and not use that? So there's no reason to not have those kind of, that kind of consultant support almost. And like Andy said, we are voting for the CEC for a reason. There's a level of trust involved in that. And the CEC will, you know, have to make some decisions. Sometimes everything can not every tiny, minute decision can go to the members. So we have to accept that we're putting our faith in these candidates to go forward and support the region. And I, for one, can say I will never let the North East be forgotten, because it is one of my biggest peeves in the world, the way people just forget about us. So yeah, I think a mixed bag, a lot of input from members, branches, but of course using those experiences from higher up people who've done it as a job, you know, it's worth it too.
Thank you, Hannah. Now we come to question 11, and as I read question 11, do you think that your party can recover from its bad start and become a party that can change Labour and can challenge Labour and reform in a way the Greens can't? Now, in my personal opinion, anybody who answers no to this question ain't going to get a vote from me. When you read, I think there should be a whole round of yeses. So we will go through everybody. So we'll start with Hannah.
I mean, yeah, as you say, yeah, of course. I don't know why anyone would possibly answer no to this
Yeah,
question.
as I read it, yeah.
Or why else would we be here? Why would we be going through all this? Why would we be fighting for anything right now if we didn't believe in it? And I do truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that there will be a day, hopefully in the near future, where we can compete in the by-elections, in any sort of form of election, and then eventually, you know, the general elections, of course. And I want to be that party that gives the home to, you know, all the people who've been left behind and disillusioned and disenfranchised and disappointed by the other groups. And let's create that home for them. And I'm really looking forward to doing that with a lot of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Myra?
Yes, I believe your party has great potential. As for advantages over the Greens, I believe that your party's biggest advantage is that it is explicitly socialist. It fills in a vacuum that has been in the left for decades now, and your party has the ability to bring together a lot of left-wing organizations that have been scattered for, again, decades, and I believe that is the party's biggest strength.
Thank you, Myra. And Stuart?
Yes, an emphatic yes. I put it in block capitals. The true battle won't be, you know, that we currently engage in to get people elected to the CEC. The key battle ahead is who is most successful in building the new branches most effectively. I personally will try to make the North Tyneside branch the biggest and the most effective branch, whilst supporting neighbouring branches. The next CEC election will be very different from this one, I hope. We will know each other much, much better, and I hope the outside factions will have no influence whatsoever, and we'll just look at our startup as being unfortunate, but we've moved on.
Thank you, Stuart. And then Ian?
Yes, of course we can. Look at the foundation of the Labour Party. It wasn't just one party, it was a whole group of organisations which came together, and out of that, within 24 years, was able to form a government, albeit a minority one. I think the important thing about reform is that reform has filled the place that was left by the Labour Party when the Labour Party abandoned class politics. And I think we need to speak loud and clear for the working class. And that's the point. As regards the Greens, it's one thing to support the Greens in the context where we're not even in a position to put up a candidate. It's another thing to say we support the Greens as somehow they're on our side. We're an unashamedly working class and socialist party, and that's who we're going to fight for. And the Greens are not. The Greens will get into bed with the Labour Party at the drop of a hat.
Okay, thank you, Ian. And then Kath?
Yes, I do think it can recover. And I think it's just about working through this, working together. We are different. We're working class socialist, and I think once people see that we're coming together more and that we're getting off the ground, there'll be more interest. But at the moment, obviously, we've got to get the CEC elected, get the structures in place, get the branches, and then we'll start to fly, I think. Thanks.
Thank you, Kath. And then Alex.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button there, John. So yes, I do think that we can challenge Labour in a way and reform in the way that the Greens can't. Um, and I think that's because your party is already far more than just a political party. It's a movement. It's full of activists and community volunteers. We'll bring real socialism to the streets, supporting our neighbours and standing with the oppressed. We can win over the public with concrete actions and not empty slogans. I think we've got to do this whole thing incredibly different to how political parties have done in the past. And it's got to be based on getting out in our communities and mucking in, showing people that we are on their side. We will support them regardless of if we're in power or not.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And finally, Andy.
Yeah, I think we can definitely move forward and succeed, but I also think we need to understand how fast moving politics is at the minute. And I really think your party needs to make the right moves going forward. We also have to understand that things don't stay the same. The Greens have put forward a candidate in Gorton and Denton who's not from their usual background. And, nothing's inevitable. We need to channel your party resources into seats where the Greens aren't as strong, or a key region like ours in the northeast, so that we can work closely with other left-wing and progressive voices to build support around your party's positive message of hope and transformation. I think it's absolutely crucial that we bring all sides together, and we have to put these factional interests aside and zero in on the urgent task of building your party, fighting reform, and the dark forces of the far right, because if we don't do that, we will never be forgiven.
Thank you very much, Andy. So that brings us to the end of our 11 prepared questions. We have run over time, and that's been a couple of issues there. Partly I've been a little bit lenient on the timekeeping. Some people did want to get their point across, and obviously little technical difficulties.
The question there.
So the next section, we were going to open up to the floor for questions from attendees. I reckon we've got about 20 to 25 minutes to complete this section. So we will open up to the floor using the raise hand. But I do have a member in my room here who would like to ask a question. So I'm going to take that as the first hand that's been put up. Right. So would you like to come across and ask your question, Mike?
We've been talking about priorities.
Can everybody hear Mike here?
Can you hear me? Priorities. And one of the priorities is that we're talking about taking the message out, we've got to get some policies to give to the people. And talking about conference sorting out policies, I'm afraid it's too late. We need them out, policies out now. How do we do that? I would suggest that the early meeting of the CEC produces a list of policies which will then be sent out to members to vote on, so we can produce a leaflet with, say, top 4 policies. So could each member tell me which one policy they would like to put on such a list?
Did everybody get that question from Mike, one of our members here? And if everybody's okay, we will go to the list. And I have got a list of the order for answers. And the first person on that one is Andy. Are we okay with that, Andy? Which policy would be your number 1?
Yeah, that's fine. I think we should actually use the increasing cynicism of politics that people have at the minute, and that we actually make a really firm position on basically taking into public ownership and reinvesting all of the surpluses from the stolen public sector industries into our economy. If we do that, I think it would mean that we would have an absolute fortune of money to actually be used to spend on all kinds of other stuff. And I think if we say that and we explain how undemocratic these privatized industries are, and the reason why we're bringing them back into public ownership, then I think that would go a long way to actually restoring people's trust and actually building a lot of support for your party and giving us quite a big war chest to spend money on the stuff that we really need to spend it on.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Andy. If I just note to everybody,
Agree with that.
if you open the chat, if anybody hasn't opened the chat, Andy Willens is kindly paraphrasing each question in there for us to remember. And also it mentioned that Hannah has eventually dropped out, her phone has run out, and questions will be forwarded to her for her response, and we will then send that on, publicise that later. So Hannah was going to be next for this one, but I'm going to move to Myra for an answer to this question. What would you put on a
Yeah,
CEC-led urgent policy document? Thanks,
I
Myra.
think a mandatory transparency document that would be a mandatory transparency policy would be integral. So a policy to ensure that every single meeting that is linked to your party is kept 100% transparent, 100% accessible to the public, and minuted. We can't have it be like Labour's council meetings where they were entirely secretive and just unhelpful to the membership as a whole because they didn't know what was going on in it. And I would want to eviscerate that at the seam and force and make that into a finalized policy so that they can never be like, yeah, no secrecy in the party should be allowed.
Okay, thank you, Myra. And then we come to Stuart's response to that one, if you've got it, Stuart.
Yeah, I think there's a problem in that a lot of members think we should start in the Olympic race when we're still basically babies. We've only just been established as a legal, effective structure in November. We're not standing hardly any candidates at all anywhere in the May elections. That's why I say it's 2027 before we stand a chance of fielding any significant electoral challenge to any other party. So we've got to be realistic of where we're coming from. And what was spelt out in Liverpool was that it was structural. And the next conference, whenever it is, 12 months or whenever, is all about establishing our policies because there's a timetable from now until the general election. And we've got to get ourselves properly prepared for the general election as an enormous amount of work and development you cannot just jump from not being a party to having established policies on all these different things. We did have a statement adopted by Liverpool, which did give quite a number of general policies, but developing in them is going to take some more time.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. And then we've got Ian next for this one.
Let's remember whose side we're on. It's the economy. We're on the side of the working class, and the economy is going to be absolutely crucial. So we need to put money in people's pockets. Successive ministers have talked about the need to grow the economy. The only way you're going to grow the economy is to put money in the pockets of working people. So that's a crucial aspect of it. So you can do it with taxation, you can do it with benefits, and above all, we need to rebalance the taxation from the rich to the poor. I completely agree that we need to reprivatise the utilities. We need to kick out privatisation from the NHS. It's been a disaster, and it's bleeding the NHS white in terms of money going to American pharmaceutical companies in particular. And above all, we need to break with US imperialism. We can't keep going on backing genocide. We can't keep going on backing US imperialist wars, of which Britain is not just complicit, but is actually a co-belligerent in terms of, for example, providing RAF flights over Gaza, for example. Our break with US imperialism is a stray out away from being a vassal state of the USA and an independent state of our own.
Thank you, Ian. And then we come to Kath. Kath's view on this question, please.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I think, we are like in the early stages and we have to have the structures in place and gradually develop policies. But I think we can still make some sort of broad policies, broad promises. I mean, things like, democratic public ownership, wealth taxes, ending homelessness, poverty, a full arms embargo against Israel. Those are the kinds of things that are aspirational, but I think we do have to get our sort of structures in place to start with, and then gradually be able to, with those structures, be able to form our policies year on year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kath. And finally, Alex.
Very similar to other candidates on the call, nationalisation of our public services, that would be my personal top priority. But included in that, it would be also our NHS, the pulling out of the private system, and also the pulling out of academies, and the retaking over of the local authority for our school system. All of these things will be a net benefit to the people, that will put money back in the pockets of people when we're not paying extortionate amounts to private entities. But we would have to be aware, obviously, of the issues that come with that, of what's it going to take for us to buy out, how are we going to have to get out of these contracts moving forward. But yeah, I'll stop there for time.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Okay, now I'm seeing Andy Willen's screen on here, and I've got 3 people with hands up. Andy, is that the only questions we've got, or are there any more?
Yep, three hands up.
Just the
Jeff
3. So
Fowler, then
what I
Jeff
intend to
Daly,
do
and
then is
Matt.
it's 20 to 9 is take all 3 questions, and then I think we'll be probably close to getting wrapped up. So first I'm just going to go left to right, so I'm going to go to Jeff Fowler, please. Jeff, could you ask your question?
Yeah, Jeff Fowler, Middlesbrough. This might have been covered on the Constitution elsewhere, but given that your party is a socialist party with the working class at its heart, what is your view on allowing membership to employers and landlords who are the biggest exploiters of the working class? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Everybody got that? And that question we open up with Alex, if Alex is okay to begin that one.
Yes, I am all right to begin that one. I think that I mean I completely agree, Jeff. That there are currently members within our party that I don't really believe that their profession aligns with keeping the working class at its heart. But I do think that it needs to be nuanced. So, as an example, we've got employers of CIOs and CICs, people that are paying minimum wage, national living wage. We've got It's about differentiating the good employers from the bad ones, and ensuring that if we are going to have an entity in your party, that they also do their business practice under the same sort of ethos that we hold the party.
Thank you, Alex. And then we come to Andy for this one.
Yeah, I think we have one member, one vote in your party. We don't have corporate membership. I know what Jeff was driving at there. I think that if we have any, frankly, I'm uncomfortable about having, let's say, MPs who might be making a lot of money out of being a landlord. I think we have to draw the distinction between maybe, a little old lady or a little old bloke who might basically be renting out a property somewhere. I wouldn't necessarily call them a bourgeois landlord if we want to look at it like that. So I don't think we should be casting them out into the darkness. But actually, certainly no to corporate membership, no to, people who have basically got, a string of properties who are basically, letting them out. I don't really think that's the route that we should be going down, or frankly need to go down.
Okay, thanks, Andy. And then we come to Myra.
Yeah, I personally do not think that your party is a place for specifically multi-land owning landlords. I'm fine with, say, again, the example of an old lady who's renting and needing to do that to survive, but those who own multiple lands and are freely profiting off of the working class should not be welcome into your party. As for employers, I believe they should be held to a very, very high standard. If the employer cannot ensure that the working class is treated to the maximum standard possible and ensuring that workers are safe, then I again do not believe that they are welcome within the party. The entire point of your party is that it is a socialist and working class party. The working class should be the priority here, not the landlords or the employers.
Okay, thank you, Myra. Then we come to Stuart.
What about Vickers?
I think, I've got a friend who's moved around quite a number of different landlords, usually he's being paid for a single room in somebody else's house, and you've got to be realistic about how people actually live in the real world. As far as I'm concerned, you can't make general guidelines. Oh, we won't have employers. When you've got all these people, I know some people who are poverty stricken, who are self-employed. What I'm saying is you can't be prescriptive. My view would be if there's a particular MP who's an exploiting landlord, then as your party should move to expel him. Dead simple. There's a right of recall. It should be exercised. Anybody who actually does something that's clearly against the interests, never mind of the working class, but of communities in general, we should take action over those breaches that are identified. But trying to say, oh, we don't want employers, we don't want it's just like saying we don't want the bloody higher paid, we don't want chief executives. Where do you draw the line? It doesn't really make sense. If there are abuses from these people, then we should get rid of them and take direct action against them.
Thank you, Ian. Sorry, Stuart. And then now we come to Ian.
Again, it's not simple, but here's a few guidelines. Anyone representing your party shouldn't be paid more than the average worker. I think at the same time, if you've got people who are owning lots of property, who are big business people, they have the same vote as anybody else. There's no privileged position for them. If they are exploiting workers, then they're not welcome. Because we are a socialist party and we are party of the working class. I don't think we wouldn't necessarily want to exclude somebody who's self-employed or employs one or two people. Why would we? We want those on our side. My brother's a self-employed builder, and basically it's just him and his son. I mean, what is that? Is that a small business? Yes, it's a small business, but it's not. But they're workers who are just simply self-employed. So we can draw a distinction. The important thing is, I believe, that any kind of corporate influence has to be excluded from the outset, and the idea that somehow you have a privileged position because you're a CEO of a company must be ruled out absolutely to core.
Thank you, Ian. And finally, we've got Kath on this one.
Thanks, John. Well, your party's one member, one vote, and there isn't corporate membership. I don't think it's about like people like the properties. I think it's more about like having things like rent controls, having things like looking at how people are being exploited in and making sure we've got affordable housing. I mean, the reason we've got like all these private landlords now is because there was a massive council house selling, and it's about getting council houses back and social housing. Well, I'm not saying social housing, I'm going to say council housing, and that's what's created this. And I think it's more about looking at what are the private landlords are a symptom of what's the policies that Thatcher brought out with council house sales, and I think that's what we need to do. But if people, as Stuart said before, if people are on sort of following the ethos and the mood for your party, then there is the right of recall, and if they're not adhering to those values, we should recall them and they should be expelled. But I think we can't prescribe making people not members because of this kind of income or that kind of income. I think we need to be a mass movement, really, and we need to be able to really encompass as many people as we can to get back on the socialist values.
Thank you, Kath. Yeah. Okay, that comes into the round for that one. So I'll now move on to Jeff A for his question, please. If you can unmute yourself, Jeff. You got it? Was Jeff disappeared?
That's it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. Can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. the Together Alliance have called a march in London on March the 28th. And their kind of lead statement is the challenges we face are real, but we won't solve them by giving in to hate and division. And I take that as being aimed right at reform, that they're trying to split the working class by using hate and division. My question is, and there will also be a rally in Newcastle next Saturday called the Unity Rally. So my question is, are you supporting both of those events, and will you be attending yourselves, and how will you build for them?
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And we'll go back
And
to
thanks for the
Kath.
discussion.
Thank you. Right, back to Kath with this one, if you're all right with that, Kath. Thank you.
Yeah, and I kept my audio on this time.
Yeah.
Yes, I would support them. Unfortunately, Jeff, I can't come to Saturday's event. I'm actually at the women's conference in Liverpool for Unison. And I will be trying to get to the one on the 28th of March. We've got a union meeting, branch meeting on Wednesday, and I'm proposing that we get Unison to either support or put on a bus to get to that event. I think it's really hugely important, and I think we should have as many people there as we can to show solidarity against the forces of reform.
Thank you, Kath. And then we come to Alex.
Yes, Jeff, the answer to both of those questions is I will be attending both. So for Saturday's Unity Rally in Newcastle, as candidates, we've actually all come together. We've written a joint statement we're going to deliver on behalf of the party in the region. And we're all going to be there for everyone to meet. So apart from obviously Kath, who's unfortunately not able to be with us. For the Together Alliance March on the 28th of March, I have been with my district, Durham district, for the National Education Union. We've been organising for getting people down for transport. It's a couple of days before our annual conference, so we've been figuring out how we can get members to London for 2 days before and then across to Brighton for our annual conference. But I've been pushing it within my friend circle, and I've been on my campaign page, I've advertised the Unity Rally on the 14th, and I planned to be advertising the Together Alliance as we approach closer to the time as well. It's really important that we're all out there. It's a bit like our Rock Against Racism, I think, this. So it's definitely vital that we're there en masse.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And then we come to Andy.
Yeah, attending both events. I mean, we're living in dark times, aren't we? I mean, we are staring down the barrel of an extreme right-wing political project, the likes of which we've never seen before. I certainly haven't seen this kind of project in my lifetime. So really glad that Alex spoke about the joint statement that we're going to be delivering at the event in Newcastle. I hope and I expect us to have a Your Party block on the London demonstration. Really looking forward to that. I think the party nationally should be emailing. I said earlier on in response to one of my questions, we should be mobilising members for that. So absolutely we should be. While I'm down in London, I'm actually attending a 1980s music exhibition where I would like to actually bring back from the 1980s the spirit of the anti-poll tax campaign, and let's use that to build ourselves up and kick these right-wing, I don't want to swear on this call, so I won't, but they are filth and they have to be driven off the streets and consigned to the dustbin of history.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm sure there are lots from the 1980s we'd love to bring back, but we can't. Rock Against Racism, yes. Now we come to Myra.
Yeah, I will be attending both of them. And as for Together Alliance themselves, I support them, the Together Alliance. I support Together Alliance as an organization and as a movement. I think they're doing great work, and I've attended one or two of their meetings to be able to try and assist them with organizing everything. As for how I will build to the events, I know that TLG, Trans Liberation Group, is planning to attend, and I also know that your party Tyneside is trying to attend. And on that front, I am going to assist in getting as many people from both TLG and your party Tyneside in attendance as possible. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Myra. And now Stuart.
Well, Friday, my Unite Community branch made a donation towards the cost of a coach. I'll certainly be there on Saturday, and I'll be there on the 28th. I've already received material from Together, national material, posters and leaflets, which I'll be distributing in the North Tyneside area. I've been in touch with the Muslim Cultural Centre, the Methodist and the Catholic churches in my own area, and reaching out and trying to encourage them to actually communicate and mobilise their respective groups of clients, shall we say. And it's also on the agenda of the North Tyneside Community Independence, the next meeting, in order to what else can we do in terms of public work and direct communications with local institutions. So there's quite a lot happening in North Tyneside.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And finally on this one, Ian.
Yes, I'll be at both. I'm picking up the banner tomorrow, which I've ordered some days ago. So we'll have a banner for the 14th and the 28th, your party North East. I've been hopefully steadily building for this anyway by attending regularly the defence of asylum seekers and migrants in Newcastle on that regular Saturday demonstration. What we also need to do is get out for any other demonstrations to come along. I mean, I was at the Palestine Solidarity demonstration on Sunday, and if only we could have had a banner there, if only we could have had some leaflets there, if we could just have had a stall to recruit people, we could have been building for that there. And so anything between now and the 28th, we'll have a stall out, we'll have a banner out, and we'll start giving your party the kind of public presence that it so desperately needs in order to defeat the National Front. To defeat Reform, which after all is really just the National Front of the 1970s now has entered the mainstream, and we have to reverse that by returning to good solid class politics.
Thank you very much, Ian. And now we come to Caroline. Thank you for your patience, Caroline, in waiting. If you've got your question there for the candidates.
Thank you. And I recognise there's probably not time for anybody to answer it. But if I could just make one point first, that I am 70 years old and a woman, and therefore could be referred to as an old lady, although I'm not little and I don't call myself a lady. So I just want to make that point. My question was, and perhaps if there's going to be answers sent out, it could be answered in that way. For each candidate, where in your list of priorities, if anywhere, does women's liberation sit? And what do you think are the first key issues the party needs to be addressing in relation to women's issues?
Thank you very much, Caroline. And we come to that one there for Ian. Thank you.
So if there's no liberation for women, there's no socialism at all. So the idea which has always been completely wrong is that somehow it's all just dependent upon the class struggle. It's absolutely not. I would stand foursquare behind any kind of demands for not just equality for women, but the full liberation. That means, for example, being independent of the finances of men. Unless you have a society where women are not dependent upon men, then how do you build for that kind of liberation? You also need a society where, for example, it's somehow not a disaster to have a child. Yet the Labour Party, for example, was determined to keep people in child poverty, and it had to be dragged screaming and kicking to end the two child cap. Above all, we need the end of capitalism in order to liberate women. But without the liberation of women, there can't be socialism.
Thank you, Ian. And then we come to Kath on that one.
Well, I'm from my mother was a single parent, widow's benefit. I was a single parent. I've worked in the care sector. I've seen how women are constantly oppressed by through lack of lack of cheap care and free childcare, lack of opportunities. I've been part of the WASPy campaign where women have been denied their pensions and even denied their compensation now by this government, who stood by them and said they promised to support them in that aim, and they reneged on that promise, which they've reneged on every single promise that they made for the leadership. I just think that women, the struggle continues, and we just have to, it comes in various aspects, violence towards women and girls. There's and I've seen a market like, especially which coming out now with the Epstein files and things like that, how women have been exploited and men in power have left women have constantly oppressed women, and we just need to ensure that all these aspects are highlighted, and also women are taken out of poverty. And I do agree with Ian. We need as well about financial liberty as well. I could just go on and on,
Yeah,
but
I know.
yes,
Thanks. That's a minute and a half. Thanks, Kath. Yeah,
yeah, thanks.
thank you. And then we come to Alex.
I'll try and be really quick on answering this for you, Caroline. So I'm incredibly lucky to be a part of National Women's Action for Positive Change alongside some phenomenal women, including Betty Cook and Heather Wood. I'm a feminist through and through, and I truly believe that in the terms of feminism as an equitable equity for all together. We need to smash the patriarchy, because at the end of the day, not only does it harm women, it also harms men. The idea of a hyper masculine it's what's going around at the minute is these alpha men that's being perpetrated by bad actors like Andrew Tate. It's one of the most scary times to be a woman, in my opinion, especially in my lifetime, where we are now. Violence against women and girls is up. We're being used as scapegoats, and as a way to point blame onto our migrant community, when it's not about whether or not you're a British or a migrant. It's about whether or not you're a man with bad intention. There's so much that we need to tackle for women, for equity, not only for our financial liberation, but for our health. Things like endometriosis don't get taken into consideration. The menopause, period poverty, not just here, but around the world. Women's health has never been looked into properly. I think that needs to be something that's really tackled, is proper funded medical research into women and their health issues.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah. I'm sorry to sort of stop you.
It's all right.
Because I know it's a very, very emotive subject and you've got a lot to say on it. And I'm sure if you've got a lot more to say, that we can work out how you can get the information across before. But thank you very much for that. We'll now come to Andy on this question.
I think it's interesting you describe it as an emotive subject, because I think this is an area where we really have to be radical as your party, and I think we really have to have policies that actually get to the crux of the matter. We know we live in a sexist society, and we need to recognise that. It doesn't only affect women, but policies like free childcare, there's no reason why we can't have that, by the way. No reason at all why we shouldn't be doing that, especially if we implement that policy I spoke about earlier on and nationalise all of the key utility organisations. There's something we could actually put that money into as well. But I just want to finish on one point on this. One of the things that really brings it home to me is the number of women who've been injured playing football with knee injuries, and yet it's ignored, and it's clearly there's an issue with it. If that was happening to men, there would be absolute hell on it. Would be on match of the day every single week. It'd be on, all of the sports programs. But because it's women, it's not being dealt with. And we only need to say, look at the whole Epstein situation to see how things are, how bad they are. So I think we really have to have some really tip-top policies that really start to actually improve women's lives and as a whole, society's lives as well. So I think we have to be radical in this area.
Thank you very much, Andy. And then we come to Myra.
Yeah, for me it is a top priority. I don't believe this party will succeed if we don't prioritize women's rights and liberation. As for key issues, quick list, the gender pay gap is still very bad. Medical negligence that is a lot higher in women, and overall the medical field is just a nightmare for them to traverse. They don't get listened to, they don't have good research backing the procedures that they go through, and that needs to be completely fixed. There needs to be more protection against acts of violence, especially within domestic settings, as that is where most violence is faced, especially amongst women, as well as ensuring that they maintain their right to bodily autonomy, which is actively trying to be taken away from them, especially within places like America, where that is, for some reason, the right to an abortion is still under debate, when it really shouldn't be. It is not your body, it's not your opinion on the matter. And also, I feel as though the way we treat women in general, as a society, needs to be completely overhauled, because we still live by the disgusting rhetoric that women are objects, and that objectification it needs to be broken away at the seeds that started it and just eviscerated. We can't have women be treated like objects. We need to get them the liberation that they deserve.
Thank you very much, Myra. And finally, Stuart. You still there, Stuart? No, Stuart. I'll ask one more time. No. Well, with that then, that is now 9:05. So I think that's worked out pretty well. I hope this has been a success for everybody. I'd like to thank all of the candidates for your attendance, and thank you for your passion and what you've shown. That was the whole point of it. Big thanks to Andy Willens for organising everything. Again, he's just done. Andy's done the bulk of the work, especially with his new IT skills.
Mm-hmm.
It will be available on YouTube, etc., and we'll publish the minutes. I'm sure if you've got any other questions, any of the people in the meeting, to ask any of the candidates, we'll be able to pass them on, or you'll be able to find their contact details. I'd like to wish all the candidates all the best. Good luck in the election upcoming, and I'm sure we'll all be pestering you as we go on, those who do get elected to the CEC. And with that, as a final point, if anybody's been missing the football results, I know what they are, but I'm not going to tell you.
Can we?
But I know one team is winning, but I won't say which one it is.
Can we mention the Corbyn meeting on Wednesday?
Sorry, Jeff?
Can we mention the Corbyn meeting on Wednesday in Middlesbrough?
Yeah, the Jeremy Corbyn meeting in Ironopolis, I believe. The links
7 o'clock.
Our WhatsApp pages. It is a ticketed do, by the way, I've noticed. Some of the people in the room with me will be going.
Yes.
But you do need to apply for tickets.
Yeah, free tickets.
Yes. Yeah, they are free, yes, but you do need to get them. And if you go onto the WhatsApp groups, they've been well publicised there, Jeff. So thanks for reminding us of that.
Thank you.
And with that, I wish you all good night.
Sorry, I just
Good luck
have
with the
a
election,
little bit
and we
of
will see you all
information.
soon.
Well,
So a
with
little
that,
bit of
yeah,
information to interject with.
Andy?
Just before people go, I've got a little bit of information. The voting is now officially open. I've had confirmation of that. We've also got confirmation of the way it's working, and this is going to have some people having some sorts of feelings, but I'll just give the information, then we can sort of drop off and deal with it as it comes up. The election is using the Imperiale quota to determine the for the STV with weighted inclusive Gregory for the surplus transfers. You can also, it seems like you can only rank up to the number of seats in that election based on what I'm seeing from some information here. So if you're in an English region, it looks like you can only rank 2 candidates. If you're in Wales or Scotland, it looks like you can only rank 1. And I assume that the same is going to be for public officers. You're probably only going to be able to rank 4. That's the information that I've just seen from a flurry of WhatsApp notifications that just came in there. So when you go in there in a traditional STV, you'd normally be able to rank as many candidates as you want. That doesn't seem to be the case here. Why that is, I don't know. But so that's the information I've got.
Thanks for that, Andy. So with that, I'll wish everybody a good evening. Enjoy the second half of the game if that's what you're going to do. And we'll see you all shortly. Thank you very much for your attendance. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Solidarity.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Now,
And thanks for chairing, John.
yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to end the meeting there then. Hopefully the YouTube thing will all just work. Bye.
Thank you very much, Andy.
No problem.
We'll be in touch. Thanks for everything there, mate. It's worked out brilliantly.
Looking forward to working with you again. Bye.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Good night, all.